When we talk about networking, we typically think of large enterprise networks. A few years ago, that's probably the major component of having a network was done by large enterprise, maybe some mid-sized companies. Today, every company has networkings. You have a small office, a home office, you work out of your house, you have a home network, everyone has networks. There are several components that we have to look at as networking that bring everything together for us. So we set our server up as a DHCP server, our machine. We set up our router as a DHCP server. Would we ever want our router to be a DHCP client? Is it possible that we could do that? I think that would probably be something that would be wise, especially on a home router, getting your address from your ISP. Structure that we use internally, our infrastructure. There may be several different file servers that we have on there. Our file servers may actually be set up with shares that live on directly attached storage here, which would be having a hard drive or an external storage device directly attached to or connected to a computer. We have files to share out. On your home networks, a lot of you will have USB ports associated with your home router. You can plug a mass storage device, a USB hard drive into that. That would be considered directly attached to the device, but because it's on your network, we would call it a network attached storage. Gives us the ability to store our data on the network someplace. If it's a whole self-contained unit, a storage area network is something we typically see on our enterprise networks. Again, more and more on smaller size, mid-sized companies, we see them as well. The different network types that we deal with, LANs, local area network, that would be my internal infrastructure. Everything that belongs to me. We talk about each LAN being its own private broadcast domain or its own subnet. The whole conglomeration is my local area network, or sometimes referenced as your intranet. Part of your intranet may be going out to remote offices someplace as well, which would be through a WAN link. Again, typically described as a broad geographic region, my WAN. When we try to distinguish between LAN and WAN, most of the time it's that representation of who owns the equipment. For the LAN, for the intranet, I own all the equipment, or the company owns all the equipment. If I'm connecting out to a remote office someplace, my WAN connection, that information, that structure is usually held by an ISP. So if I want to have a remote connection to an office 150 miles away, I could run 150 miles worth of cable, and I'd have to get licenses from the power company or the telephone company to put the wires on the pole or to dig holes, ditches to put my cables in. That infrastructure is already there. Maybe I'd rather just purchase it from an outside vendor. In that case, I will contract someone to carry my data from point A to point B. That really is that definition of a WAN. If I don't own the equipment, if it's ISP owned, that becomes my WAN. There are some alternative terminology that we use. MAN was one that was used for a period of time, Metropolitan Area Network. One that goes with that is CAN, which is Campus Area Network. And these are all WANs. Meaning wide area network owned by someone else. But for a while the industry tried to dictate by dimension perhaps. Out to 3 miles would have been a campus area network. Maybe out to 30 miles would have been a metropolitan area network. Then beyond 30 miles to infinity and beyond was the wide area network. Again, all owned by an outside agency someplace. You see another terminology in here as well called PAN, personal area network. The personal area network, it would be something like a Bluetooth area, or maybe even near-field communication. That little bubble of space around you is your personal area network. All of these components end up making up our network infrastructure.